Does anyone have a question?
I have a question, Stuart.
Yes.
In Rudy's books or book, he references crystallization quite a bit and breaking it down. Can you expand a little bit on that? What the crystallization is and the importance of
It's
breaking it down?
just, look, what he's speaking about is stagnant living. Making an effort in your life to grow and reach a level, and then allowing that level to crystallize so that it doesn't move in any direction anymore. And your life becomes a stagnant means of living. And all the creative energy goes into creating mediocrity instead of really becoming a vessel through which it allows higher energy to create inside you because things are moving. You know, he did talk about crystallization a lot, and it's something that I talk about also. I don't use the word crystallization, but it's exactly the same thing. You know, if a brook is running down the side of a mountain, anybody can drink the water. Once it becomes a pond or a lake, it becomes stagnant and it attracts all kinds of insects, disease, and nobody can drink the water. And I think part of spiritual practice is learning how to be a brook flowing down the side of a mountain so that you never crystallize, you never get stagnant. You arrive at levels which give you footing so that you can break them down and get to the next level in your life. I mean, this is something that is true about certainly all of the arts. You see painters, you see musicians, you see dancers that arrive at a certain place in life where they're successful and they have a certain means of producing, and it never changes. And then it eventually gets old and stale. But the change, the breaking down of those levels that we attain, not allowing ourselves to be crystallized. And, as high in art as music and painting and sculpture and dance, life is the highest art that we will ever experience. And when life becomes stagnant, understand, it's boredom, it's lethargy, there's no creativity anymore. There's no juice. And what he was talking about is truly that. And it's something I talk about a lot, although I don't use the word crystallization. But I certainly remember Rudy using it all the time. And to be crystallized is to somehow secure a safe position in life that we think is secure, we think is safe, and it's really not. It just creates stagnant pool of water. People get stagnant. I mean, there was a wonderful faux painter whose name I happen to forget at the moment, but he was a wonderful painter. And I used to go to Sotheby's and Christie's for their impressionist sales just to look at the art. I never could afford anything, but I really enjoyed looking at the art. And they had paintings by this guy that were boring paintings, estimated, $200,000, $150,000. And, I could never figure out why. I mean, what was so important about it? And one day I went there and they had a painting by his from the Fauve period between about 1900 and 1905, and Andre Duran and all these guys, Matisse and Braque, and they were all painting really extraordinary stuff. And there was a painting of his in the exhibition estimated at $5 million. He had this remarkable period of creativity. And then it got commercial, got stagnant. And so he kept painting little villages with dark skies and rain. I mean, every painting was the same. And he probably finished them and sold them immediately and painted five more. And he didn't continue like, Brock did and Matisse did to build on what he learned through that Fauve period and create something else, move on from it and use it to get to another level of his art. A lot of musicians are that way, artists are that way. They hit a creative level that is successful and they don't move past it. So that's what Rudy was talking about when he spoke about crystallization. Having to break it down, having to take a chance, having to understand, that life and the energy of God and spirit is infinite in the universe. And there's no limit to the creativity that can take place inside a human being and to grow. And it's something we all have to learn because we're all looking for safety nets, a big score. We're going to hit the lotto one day, never have to worry about anything again. I mean, life is never that way. And it's nothing to be worried about. It's something to rejoice in that one can continue to live like a brook flowing down the side of a mountain. The freshness, the purity of what one touches inside themselves and not get crystallized. Or if we arrive at a place, a plateau, we have the energy to break it down and break it down so that something new can grow. I mean, success often brings crystallization, financial success, economic success, even relationship success can often bring crystallization. We get settled and we live in a world that we think is secure, and the whole energy becomes lethargic. Now, the secret is to break it down and to maintain your balance and open heart, the love, the happiness, the joy inside yourself, and to see the changes manifest and take place inside that will then manifest in your life so you can use on a higher level. And I think we all deserve that, because the other path, it just leads to the grave, doesn't take us anywhere. So when Rudy spoke about crystallization, this is what he was talking about. And, even before I met him, I understood that. I didn't know how to do it, but I certainly understood that I didn't want to wind up in some suburban house with a white picket fence, 4 television sets, and 3 cars. You know, I mean, this is what my family wanted for me: successful doctor, lawyer, something of that nature. And I knew that there was something else I had to attain in life, and I needed to break everything down in order to attain it. I hope that's clear because I don't know how to make it any clearer, you know. Anyway, does anyone else have a question? Like to ask?
Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah. Yeah, Rudy was big on breaking down crystallization. He really was. He always had a new project, a new something that forced him to work on himself, to break himself down. And he put those demands on me so I could learn how to do it, you know. Dump me in an ashram. You're running an ashram. What the hell did I know about running ashrams? Nothing. And here I am in Denton, Texas, with 20 people living in a house, having to run the situation. And boy, I had to break myself down to great depths in order to do that, to learn from it and to grow from it. And I just created projects. I mean, I had all kinds of projects that I was endlessly, you know, prison projects and ashrams all over Texas and all over the place, you know, that really forced me to break myself down so I could be big enough to deal with all those things. And then Rudy comes to Texas, and I had all set up for him 3 or 4 different ashrams to visit, prison programs to go and teach, and you know, all kinds of stuff we were doing. And he tells me I'm not working hard enough. Well, I've told you this story a billion times, you know. And I said, what? He said, well, buy that building. Buy that. It's a shopping center, you know, strip mall. I had to really break myself down, had to learn how to do things like that because I had so much resistance to doing that that it took me really developing a very strong connection with higher energy in the universe to get the power to be able to do that kind of thing. When I told him I have $600 to my name, he said, anybody can do it with money. And that was one of the great mantras of my, anyone could do it. And it's true. You have $200 million in the bank. What is it to buy a shopping in a small mall like that? You know, nothing. You have $600. You really got to grow and learn how to do things like that. And it taught me how to grow enormously. And the biggest thing it taught me is how to stop being afraid of money and success. It was breaking down what could have become a very crystallized world. And that's why I left Texas. I was afraid living there another year, my life would be completely crystallized. And I didn't want to live that way. I went back to New York, started all over again. Just to keep from becoming crystallized. Does anyone else have a question?
So, Stuart, I have a question.
Yes.
Um, so, what I'm hearing is that the engine uh, behind all of these big changes and is you asking for help.
Yes.
And so, could you speak more about that?
I needed Nityananda, I needed Rudy, I needed all the forces in the universe. I was on my knees begging them to come down and give me the strength to do what I had to do. I was asking for help, humbly, with great humility, understanding I was incapable of doing this unless I got the help from Rudy, from Nityananda, from, you know, spirits that I didn't even know who they were, to come down and give me the energy to do what I had to do with my life. on my knees, asking. I mean, they say in the Bible, ask and you'll receive, and it's really true. You've got to ask, and you have to do it with humility, and you have to do it with a sense of purpose and a vision in life, and have some humility about yourself, recognizing where you are at and what you need in order to grow, and then have the ability to get on your knees and ask for it. Every meditation class I taught in Denton, Texas was about asking for that energy to allow this thing to grow. And for me, that house we built down there, how did it come about? You know, it's ridiculous. I mean, I went to the bank and they gave me this ridiculous loan, you know, and we built the house. How? I kept asking for the energy for this to come into fruition. And Rudy, Nityananda, and God knows who else, you know, host of higher beings came and provided the energy to make these projects possible.
Stuart, were you asking specifically specific outcomes or asking for help in general?
I was asking for help specifically and in general. I mean, Bob, I was like an octopus. I still am like an octopus doing, I needed 100 arms to do what I was doing. And even to what I do today, which isn't quite as complicated. I need energy. I can't assume that I have arrived, and I have to ask higher forces in the universe to give me the energy so that I can live my life without crystallizing. And it has to be really through humility. I mean, if you go up there and you're as important as these cosmic entities, forget about it. They'll just kick you back to the earth and say, forget it, you know? You got to go asking with deep humility. I want to serve God. I want to serve God on earth, and I want to be able to allow the energy to come that I can do that with. And then the miraculous thing is you never know what's going to come. You never know what's going to come. It's just extraordinary. The things that they send to help you in your life. And then you got to be smart enough to recognize them and use them. You know, they don't say, oh, well, I got.
Thank you, Stuart. That's very good.
You're welcome, Bob. I mean, Bob, that's how else did that situation grow like that? My God, you know. I was on my knees for 9 years down there asking for help to get the energy to do all those things. I went back to New York, and boy, I had to get even lower on my knees to deal with New York City. Are you kidding? Does anyone else have a question?
Stuart, it's Kenny.
Yes, Kenny.
Um, I don't know. Well, a few weeks ago, you were saying that when one asks, not to ask from the head, from the mind, but rather to ask from someplace very deep. Can you talk a little about that?
That's from
Because I don't know how to discern whether it's coming from my mind or from somewhere else.
that's from the heart. Ask with humility, ask with love, ask with that thing inside you that truly wants to serve a higher energy in the universe. And that comes from the heart. It doesn't come from the head. So you've got to open your heart. And in order to keep the heart open like that, you have to build a chakra system inside that's really strong enough to do it.
So can I ask, would that mean that you are deeply focusing on your heart, where and
Um,
hearing that sentence or whatever?
It means that you're focused in the chakra below the navel because that gives you rootedness and balance. And then you have gratitude that opens the heart. And you offer up that gratitude. You offer up that part of you that truly wants to serve a higher force in the universe. But you got to be rooted, otherwise, God, forget it. First of all, the energy in the cosmos is too strong if you're not rooted and grounded inside yourself. But it comes from humility. It comes from not this sense of ego and I am all important and more important. I am less and I want to grow in life. I mean, that's how I've done it all my life. To grow and do what I've done in my life. It just came from that. And it was never me. I used to do exercises that the energy of the cosmos would flow through me onto an ashram, onto spiritual situation for it to grow and take on a bigger life. And it worked. I wasn't ever there, send me money. I want money. It flowed through me, and the money had to go into nurturing something that would give life. If you have a family, the money can go and nurture the family to give life to the family. Success. Does anyone else have a question?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, if there are no more questions, there'll be meditation tomorrow evening. And I always say it, I'm sure you're sick and tired of me saying it. I'll say it again. Thank you all. God bless you all for being here, for being part of this. And your presence really makes me work on myself in a very deep way. So I'm very grateful to each and every one of you to have you in my life and to have you participating in these sessions here. So have a wonderful evening and God bless you all. I'll see everybody tomorrow.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
You're welcome. Night.